morning, traders. I'm Emily Advani, the CEO of the Investment Banking Institute and your host here at NewsWare's Trade Talk. Joining me is trading anchor Bill Olson, who brings more than 30 years of institutional trading experience to our program. At Trade Talk, we provide the facts, themes, and trading ideas for the day ahead. Today is Tuesday, September 23rd. All eyes are on fresh economic clues today after stocks kicked off the week in the green. The Dow inched up 66 points, or about 0.14%. The S&P 500 knocked its third straight win, rising 29 points, or 0.44%, and the Nasdaq led the charge, climbing 157 points, nearly 0.75%. Now investors are watching today's economic data, Fed commentary, and signs of where policy and the rally goes from here. So, Bill, let's get into Tuesday with what is happening in the markets this morning.
Hi, Emily. Good morning. Yeah, S&Ps are flat. We're at 0.00. I mean, there's very little volatility this morning in the markets. But, later today, we're going to get those flash PMI numbers. And then, that's going to give you clues on the economic momentum. And that's going to be like a big, a difference maker in the change of the S&Ps. And then, of course, you get that Fed speech from Federal Reserve Chairman Jerome Powell, which is happening later today. And that's going to be a broad-ranging speech on monetary policy. That's going to be one to pay attention to. Markets, are staying cautious this morning. You got mixed signals from economic data and elevated valuations, especially in the tech sector, led by Nvidia and the strong AI rally. What do we have? Well, last night, President Trump and RFK Jr., they made some really controversial and unproven claims linking Tylenol, acetaminophen, during the use of pregnancy to autism. And but their comments, lacked scientific consensus. I mean, it's not. This is a gut feeling. This is what RFK Jr. has said along, because there's no autism, zero, according to President Trump, in Amish communities. Well, that doesn't mean, I just think this is very negative for Kenvue, but, it's been negative for Kenvue going into this thing. But Kenvue has turned around this morning and it's up 4.83%. So, the bad news is out. And the thing is if it did do what they said, Tylenol causing autism, and they didn't pull it from store shelves immediately, if they didn't ban it, I would have to tend to think that they're liable, in some way, informed, but they can't do it because they don't have the science to back it up. But that Kenvue is a developing story that's going to continue to be out there for a while. President Trump, hey, he's going to be at the UN today. He's going to be giving a speech. It's going to be focused on foreign policy, his foreign policy priorities in the ongoing global crisis, including, the U.S. stance on international cooperation. We'll have to wait and see what that is. Remember, he's politicking for a Nobel Peace Prize. That's really what he's looking for. On the earnings front, you got Micron, you got ARR. They're all expected to, and Miller Knoll, they're all expected to release earnings this afternoon. That's something to keep an eye on. And then we're turning our attention over to Europe this morning. And, this morning, Europe had some really big gains. They were up like 1%, but they pulled back from those earlier gains this morning, but they're still higher. You look at the DAX, it's up 70 points, or 0.3%. The private sector activity in Germany, it unexpectedly accelerated in September, reaching its fastest pace in 16 months. Nice. It went to 52.5 from 49 in August. That's a nice economic figure. Then you're looking at London, the FTSE. The FTSE's up 0.08%, led by performance in mining and energy stocks. You got the CAC is up 0.8% with gains in tech, luxury, and industrials. Then you're turning the page and you're looking at Asia last night, and the Nikkei was closed. Sports Day, I think, was the holiday, but it was closed overnight. Hong Kong, Hong Kong finished lower by 0.7%. But you got to remember that you saw a little weakness in tech and pharma, but Hong Kong is effectively shut down in anticipation of that super typhoon that's about to hit the island. So, I mean, the fact that it's down a little bit, I'm not really pricing that into the markets right now. In China's Shanghai Composite Index slipped 0.18%. Listen, China's markets have had a prolonged rally, and some profit taking, was overdue. And there's a little concern over yesterday's PBOC decision to keep rates the same for the fourth month in a row. Everybody's looking for a stimulus action for it, so there's a little profit taking. Then we're turning our attention over to oil, and oil is showing gains this morning. It's up about 1%. I mean, the fact of the matter is there's two key catalysts causing oil to move higher. There's the OPEC is raising its 2025 growth forecast for Saudi Arabia to 3.7% from 1.8%. That's a nice spike. That's, signaling that the demand prospects are there. And then after the bell today, you get the API inventory estimates, which are due out, 4:30 p.m. Eastern time. That's something to keep an eye on. But that's what I have for you in terms of morning market update report, Emily.
Bill, we have a number of key areas to be watching today. Of course, that economic data, there's geopolitical news coming out, that we're following along, and some of these corporate headlines, and we're going to get into details throughout the show. One of the areas that we can't miss is earnings action before getting to some of the other market moving information today. So let's start there, Bill. What is going on in terms of earnings action?
I got to look for after the bell today. I mean, you got AAR, which is AAR Corp, which is ticker AIR, Apple, India, Richard. They're coming out after the bell. Their EPS is 98 cents. Expected move is 11.25% when they release today. I'm looking at the put to call ratio at 0.17. That's kind of positive. And then you got Micron, ticker MU. Their EPS is $2.87, and that expected move is 10.27%. Their put to call ratio is 0.50. Again, kind of positive. Worthington Industries, ticker WOR, they're expected to make 80 cents. Expected move is 9.72%. Put to call ratio is 0.45. So they're all positives. But that's what I have for you in terms of a morning earnings update, Emily.
Now, onto the day's economic events. There is some key data coming out along with some important Fed speak. So let's get there. Bill, what is going on in terms of the day's economic events?
Yeah, we got a good calendar today. I'll tell you that. 9:45 a.m. You get the PMI composite flash report. That is going to be interesting. 10 a.m. you got the Richmond Fed manufacturing index. But then you got Fed speak. At 9 a.m. you can hear from Fed Governor Michelle Baumann. Remember, she's she's as dove as she can be. Last year she was a hawk. Last year at this time she was, saying, no, we shouldn't have done a 50 basis point cut. But with Trump in the office, she's like, oh, cut. Raphael Bostic, he's from the Atlanta Fed. He's supposed to speak at 10 a.m. And at 12:35 p.m. we're going to hear from Fed Chairman Jerome Powell. And this is an event in Rhode Island. The event is entitled, Economic Outlook, 2025 Economic Outlook. And Powell's expected to address several key topics in the speech, including the economic outlook, direction of monetary policy, inflation dynamics, labor market dynamics, and potential risks and uncertainties facing the U.S. economy. So, yeah, this is going to be a crucial speech. But that's what I have for you in terms of an economic update this morning, Emily.
Bill, as investors are trying to piece together these clues on the overall state of the economy and the Fed's next moves when it comes to monetary policy, keeping track of all of this data is important. You're doing that using your NewsWare, gathering those economic data points, gathering the Fed speak, especially those commentaries from Federal Reserve Chair Jerome Powell, gathering your earnings reports, and you're still gathering other market moving information and data coming out of different sectors and segments. Every morning you're looking at your NewsWare, breaking it down into alerts for things like merger news, guidance news, shareholders meetings, buyback news, and catalyst calls. You're looking at your stocks grouped together like your FANG stocks and your Dow 30 stocks. So Bill, what else do you see is possibly moving the markets today?
I'm just doing a quick data check. I'm looking at my Dow stocks. I got 7 lower, 2 unchanged, and 21 higher. Nice. I'm looking at my FANG stocks this morning. Apple's showing a little weakness. Netflix is showing a little weakness, but everything else is positive. So, it's a good way to start. You look at some of the news behind the tape, like Apple, Google. EU's really targeting Apple and Google and Microsoft over online financial scams. So wants to hold them kind of partially responsible. Google, the DOJ and Google began the second phase of their trial yesterday. I mean, they're arguing over what remedies should be ordered to stimulate more competition in a market for web advertising, which Google is the major player. Tesla, UBS is out there saying Tesla's Q3 deliveries are 8% above their consensus. And it's kind of positive. Look at the Dow Jones 30 stocks. You got to talk about Boeing. Boeing received an order of up to 22 Dreamliner jets from a European country. And there's a lot of talk about a pending deal with China. A big order from China, they say, is coming. It's likely to be announced when Trump and Xi are together, whether when Trump goes to China or maybe when they meet on the side of the APEC summit. But there's likely to be an announcement soon. Disney announced that the Kimmel Live show is going to return to the airways this evening. Now, Sinclair Broadcasting, which is a conservative outfit and owner of some ABC stations, they're not going to broadcast. They're like, oh, no, we can't do that because what he did was wrong. Listen, let your viewers. It's revenue. You want to show a rerun of Gilligan's Island rather than the Jimmy Kimmel show. You're hurting yourself. It's only temporary. It won't last. What else do we see here? Walmart's kicking off their holiday season early. They're going to start their deal days on starting October 7th. They're doing this sales event between 7th and 12th. This is matching what Target's doing. This is matching what Amazon is doing. So interesting. We're seeing a lot of retail sales deals out there. In terms of merger news, Morningstar, ticker MORN, Michael, Oscar, Richard, Nancy, they're going to pay $375 million to the University of Chicago for its historical price and index service. Interesting. McKesson, MCK, they're expected to hold an Investors Day today. It's supposed to start at 9:30. And that's what I have for you about news in the tape this morning, Emily.
This is the type of data that NewsWare delivers daily. It's factual, it's market moving, and our alerting functions bring it to your attention as it happens. Go to www.newsware.com now and sign up for the trial and see for yourself the benefits that professional Newswire delivers. It is now that time of the show for the Trade Talk Pick of the Day. Bill, what do you have for us today?
AAR Corp, ticker AIR, Apple, India, Richard. Earnings are out after the bell. EPS, 98 cents. Expected moves, 11.25%. Yesterday's call volume, 1,104 calls versus 189 puts. Open interest, 21.29 versus 11.50. Still positive. It's not really covered by the major brokers, but the brokers that do cover it, they're positive on the stock. But for me, I want to get in it. I want to get in the discount. I'm thinking, 76.85 to 76.90. Maybe 95. I want to get it under 77, but that's my pick of the day. Ticker AIR. That's AAR Corp. Emily.
Bill will follow that earnings play along with you. And coming up, we will do a recap on yesterday's pick of the day, which was also an earnings play. So stick with us through that. But first, let's take a look at the current breaking headlines that have hit the tape in our hot off the press segment. Bill, take it away.
Okay. We go. Bullfrog AI to showcase AI-powered clinical data solutions and X Talks webinar. That's BFRG. Meta Platform said it's making Llama available to key allies. America's closest allies, they said. Kenvue rallies 6% after Trump's event on Tylenol risk. Remember, he didn't ban it. He should have banned it. If it's really that bad, he should have banned it. Pepsi, PEP. Talks between Elliott and PepsiCo are ongoing. Keep an eye on Pepsi, Paul Edward Paul. Big Five Sporting Goods, that's BGFV, Boy Grace, Frank, Victor. They're postponing their special meeting to stockholders. Not good. Costco, call put ratio 1-to-1 going into their earnings results, which are due out Thursday afternoon. BNTX, they're going to host their second AI day as an addition of its innovation series. I think they're going to be doing that on October 1. Walmart expands same-day delivery services for refrigerated and reconstituted meds. Positive. That's all I'm seeing this morning, Emily.
Okay, Bill, before we get to trading on this Tuesday, let's do that check-in on yesterday's pick of the day, which was AutoZone. Bill, this was an earnings play and a little bit of a bummer on this one. The company did have its fifth straight earnings miss. I guess that is one form of consistency. But, Bill, you're also consistent and diligent, typically aiming for a specific entry price and walking away when you see your gain. Admittedly, this one did not hit all your data points, which you did mention on the show yesterday. How did your call work out?
Well, I accounted for that. And that's why I gave that entry price that was, way off the market. And, if you, I was saying 4,000 to 4,050. So you call it 4,025. And you look at the stock this morning, it's trading right in the middle there because, the stock opened up at $4,166. It did fall to $4,105. But with an entry price of 4,025, it was still very far away. This morning it's trading 40.35. On the ask 4,000 to 40.35. So I mean, it's a flat trade. I mean, it's not generating any revenue. But then again, it's not losing any revenue because you know what, we accounted for that in our price target, and that's why we gave out a little bit of a lower price target because we weren't sure. But I still think it's a really good solid business, and don't worry about the earnings miss. It's about what they're doing as a business. Because remember, Amazon was missing earnings year after year after year. And what did Jeff Bezos say? I don't care. I'm building a company. I'm going to miss revenue, and I don't really care about it year after year because I'm building something special. And that's what AutoZone is, ticker AZO. It was a flat trade yesterday, Emily.
A flat trade, certainly better than a miss, keeping your eye on that specific entry point. We'll continue to watch AutoZone there. Like you said, maybe some interesting room for growth in the long term. And we will also check in with you tomorrow about today's AAR Corp pick of the day. Bill, thank you as always for your expert insight. Join us back here tomorrow and each weekday morning this week at NewsWare's Trade Talk when we provide the facts, themes, and trading ideas for the day ahead. Again, I'm your host, Emily Bonney, here with trading anchor Bill Olson. Traders, you know what to do. Let's go out there and make some green.